The Second Amendment is a cornerstone of American liberty, woven deeply into the nation's identity and history. It is one of the most frequently cited and passionately defended rights in the United States, shaping not only legal debates but also the cultural landscape. Yet, its interpretation remains hotly debated, sparking intense conversations among lawmakers, citizens, and activists alike. The meaning and intent behind its words have been the subject of disagreement for generations. The text reads, "A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." These 27 words have fueled centuries of legal and philosophical debate. In the late 18th century, militias were essential for community defense, especially in a young nation wary of standing armies. Over time, however, the focus has shifted from collective defense to the rights of individuals, raising questions about how the amendment applies in today's society. One interpretation views the Second Amendment as guaranteeing a personal right to own firearms for self-defense, hunting, and recreation. Supporters argue that this right is fundamental to personal liberty and protection against tyranny. Another perspective ties the right to bear arms specifically to service in a well-regulated militia, such as the National Guard. This view emphasizes the collective responsibility of citizens to defend their communities, rather than an unrestricted individual right. These differing interpretations have a direct impact on gun laws across the country. In some states, open carry of firearms is permitted, reflecting a broader interpretation of individual rights. In contrast, other states impose strict regulations, requiring background checks, permits, and limitations on certain types of firearms. These laws aim to balance individual rights with concerns about public safety and gun violence. For many Americans, the Second Amendment is a powerful symbol of freedom and independence, representing the enduring spirit of the nation. For others, however, it is a source of anxiety, as the prevalence of firearms in modern society has led to tragic incidents of gun violence and loss. The patchwork of state laws and ongoing disputes have resulted in landmark Supreme Court cases, as the nation's highest court seeks to clarify the amendment's meaning and establish a consistent legal standard. The significance of the Second Amendment extends far beyond the right to own a gun. It represents the ongoing struggle to find a balance between personal freedom and the collective need for security and order. The debate over its meaning reflects deeper questions about what it means to be free and safe in America, and how to reconcile individual rights with the well-being of the community. Understanding the historical context, legal battles, and evolving interpretations is crucial for anyone seeking to grasp the complexities of gun rights and regulations in the United States. As society changes, so too does the interpretation of the Second Amendment, shaped by new challenges, court decisions, and shifting public attitudes. Its impact on American society remains profound and contentious, ensuring that the conversation about the Second Amendment will continue for generations to come. Thompson vs. United States began with Maria Thompson, a hard-working truck driver who spent most of her days on the open road, traveling across state lines to deliver goods all over the West Coast. Like many in her profession, Maria valued her safety, especially during long hauls through remote areas. She held a valid concealed carry permit in her home state of Oregon, believing she was following the law and protecting herself responsibly. But her routine trip took a dramatic turn when she was caught in a legal tangle due to conflicting state gun laws. What seemed like a straightforward journey quickly became a complicated legal ordeal. Licensed in Oregon, Maria was arrested in California after a routine traffic stop revealed she was carrying a handgun. California did not recognize her Oregon permit, and suddenly Maria found herself facing criminal charges for something that was perfectly legal just miles away. Her case highlighted the confusion and burden of navigating a patchwork of state laws, where the rules could change simply by crossing an invisible border. For Maria and countless others, this patchwork created uncertainty and fear of accidental violations. Gun rights advocates quickly rallied behind Maria, arguing that Americans should have a national standard for concealed carry permits, much like the way driver's licenses are recognized in every state. They saw her case as a clear example of why uniformity was needed. On the other side, California officials defended their strict gun laws, insisting that each state has the right to set its own standards to protect public safety. They argued that local communities best understand their own needs and risks, and that state rights must be respected. The case eventually reached the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, where judges weighed the arguments from both sides. In a closely watched decision, the court sided with California, upholding the state's authority and setting the stage for a possible Supreme Court appeal. The The legal battle underscored the ongoing tension between individual rights and state regulations, sparking heated debates across the country about the limits of personal freedom and the role of government in regulating firearms. Maria Thompson's situation became a rallying point for those seeking uniformity in gun laws, inspiring rallies, petitions, and national conversations about the need for clarity and fairness. The case illustrated the real-world challenges faced by law-abiding citizens who travel across state lines, often unaware that their legal rights can vanish the moment they enter a new jurisdiction. It raised fundamental questions about the balance between federal authority and state autonomy, and whether the Constitution protects the right to carry firearms across state borders. The outcome of Thompson versus United States would have significant implications for gun rights, state powers, and the daily lives of millions of Americans who travel for work or family. As the Supreme Court prepared to weigh in, the nation watched closely, knowing that the decision would shape the future of gun laws and the delicate balance between personal liberty and public safety. At the Supreme Court, the central question was whether the Second Amendment implies a national standard for gun ownership. Thompson's lawyers argued for uniform rights, likening gun rights to free speech. They highlighted the confusion caused by varied state laws, advocating for a clear baseline. Opponents emphasized federalism, arguing states should regulate firearms based on local needs. They warned against federal overreach and stressed the importance of state autonomy. The debate centered on balancing individual rights with public safety and state governance. The court's decision would redefine the interplay between federal and state powers. On October 14, 2025, the Supreme Court ruled 8-1 in favor of Thompson, reshaping Second Amendment law. The decision mandated states recognize out-of-state gun rights, akin to driver's license reciprocity. The ruling, supported by justices across ideological lines, emphasized individual rights across state lines. It set a precedent for lower courts, requiring states to accommodate non-resident gun rights. Justice Jackson's dissent highlighted concerns about federal overreach and state rights. The decision marked a significant victory for gun rights advocates, establishing a new legal standard. It underscored the court's role in balancing individual freedoms with state regulations. The ruling's impact would be felt nationwide, prompting legal and legislative changes. In a landmark opinion, Chief Justice Roberts underscored the Second Amendment as a fundamental right, one that transcends state boundaries and is deeply rooted in the nation's history and tradition. He argued that constitutional protection should not depend on where a person lives or travels within the United States, emphasizing that the right to bear arms is not a privilege reserved for residents of certain states, but a core liberty for all Americans. The ruling called attention to the confusing and often contradictory patchwork of state laws, which placed an unfair burden on citizens like Thompson, who found themselves entangled in legal uncertainty simply for crossing state lines. Many Americans, unaware of the differences, faced legal jeopardy for actions that were lawful in their home states. Justices Sotomayor and Kagan joined the majority, highlighting the need for fairness and due process in the application of gun laws. They stressed that equal justice under the law requires clear, consistent standards that protect individual rights while respecting the rule of law. The decision mandated that states establish a transparent and accessible process for non-residents to legally carry firearms, ensuring that the right to self-defense is not arbitrarily denied based on residency or bureaucratic hurdles. At the same time, the court recognized the authority of states to regulate firearms in sensitive locations, such as courthouses and government buildings, striking a careful balance between public safety and constitutional freedoms. By setting a new, uniform test for evaluating state gun laws, the ruling aimed to eliminate confusion and ensure that constitutional rights are applied consistently across the nation, regardless of local differences. This marked a significant shift toward a unified legal standard, one that will shape the outcome of future legal challenges and guide lawmakers in crafting fair, effective policies. Ultimately, the decision reinforced the principle that constitutional rights must be applied equally to all Americans, affirming the enduring importance of fairness, clarity, and justice in the nation's legal system. Justice Jackson's dissent warned of the decision's impact on state rights and public safety. She emphasized federalism, arguing states should experiment with solutions to gun violence. Jackson cautioned that the ruling could lead to increased gun-related crime. She challenged the majority's historical interpretation, accusing them of judicial activism. Her dissent predicted legal chaos and weakened local governance. Jackson's perspective highlighted the deep divisions on gun rights and state autonomy. Her warning underscored the potential consequences of the court's decision. The dissent framed the debate as a choice between federal mandates and state experimentation. The ruling in Thompson versus United States will significantly alter gun laws nationwide. States with strict gun control must revise laws to accommodate non-resident rights. This will lead to legal and legislative activity, with potential reciprocity agreements. Gun rights groups will challenge laws not meeting the new standard. The decision provides clarity for gun owners, ensuring rights across state lines. It maintains states' authority to regulate firearms in sensitive areas. The ruling redraws regulatory boundaries, balancing freedom and safety. The impact will be felt in legal challenges and state policy adjustments. The Thompson decision redefines American rights, affecting citizens, states, and federal power. It establishes that fundamental rights cannot be limited by state borders. The ruling prompts a national conversation on the balance between freedom and safety. It highlights the Supreme Court's power to shape everyday life and legal landscapes. The decision challenges communities to balance individual rights with public safety. It underscores the importance of judicial appointments and constitutional interpretation. The case compels a re-examination of the Second Amendment's role in modern society. Its impact will be debated and felt for generations, influencing American law and values.